Rain streaked the glass of her apartment window, blurring the city lights into a smear of gold and gray. She leaned closer, her breath fogging the pain, when something caught her eye, something in the reflection. It was her face. Of course it was her face. Same hair tucked behind her ear, same tired eyes staring back. But something fell off. The reflection's lips were curled upward ever so slightly, in a smile she wasn't making. She frowned, testing it. Yet the version of herself in the window didn't move in time with her. For the briefest moment, the face seemed delayed, as though watching her instead of mimicking her. She stepped back quickly, her heart stumbling. It's just the rain distorting things, she told herself. Light, water, tricks of the glass. But later, when she passed the hallway mirror on her way to bed, she froze again. The reflection was sharper this time. Her twin, staring back with eyes that were just a little too dark, the pupils swallowing more than they should. And there it was again, that same faint, knowing smile. She touched her cheek in the real world. The reflection touched hers too, only for a split second. The hand pressed against the glass didn't look human. The fingers were too long. She gasped, stumbling back, and the moment was gone. Her reflection stood as normal as ever, copying her movements perfectly. Wide-eyed, innocent, still. But the unease burrowed into her chest. For the first time in her life, she pulled the sheet over the mirror before she went to sleep. The next few days, she tried to forget. Mirrors were easy to avoid. She brushed her teeth with her head down, dressed without glancing at her closet mirror, and even kept the bathroom light off at night. Still, something felt wrong, as if the air itself was heavier whenever she walked past a reflective surface. Then, it started happening outside of glass. On Tuesday evening, she was fumbling with her keys in the apartment hallway when she felt it, that prickling sensation of being watched. The corridor was empty. The neighbors' doors were shut, lights dim. But when she looked toward the stairwell, her breath caught. Someone stood at the bottom of the steps. Her. She recognized the shape instantly. The tilt of the shoulders, the messy bun of hair she tied up only an hour ago. But the figure wasn't moving. It stood utterly still, head bent at a strange angle, as though trying to study her without being noticed. "Hello," she whispered, her voice cracking. The figure didn't respond. It didn't vanish either. For several seconds, it simply stood there, half hidden in the dim stairwell light, staring straight up at her. She blinked, and it was gone. Her chest tightened, panic rising like a tide. She rushed into her apartment, slamming the door shut and sliding the chain across with trembling hands. But later that night, as she sat awake on the couch, she caught it again, just for a second, in the reflection of the darkened TV screen. That face, that version of herself, watching from behind the glass. And this time, she was certain it wasn't her imagination. By now, she'd grown used to checking corners, reflections, even the dark stretch of her apartment at night. It wasn't paranoia anymore, it was survival. But the worst came on a Thursday. She had just finished brushing her hair in front of the covered mirror when she heard something. A faint rustle, almost like fabric dragging across the floor. Her heart sank. She pulled the sheet away from the mirror, bracing herself. And there it was. Her reflection. Still her, but not. The version in the glass tilted its head slowly, too slowly, like a puppet testing its strings. Its lips pulled into a stretched, jagged smile that hurt just to look at. She raised her hand, shakily, deliberately, to see if it would follow. The reflection raised his hand too, but not in sync. There was a pause, a lag, as if it had to process her movement before copying it. And when it finally lifted its arm, the elbow bent the wrong way for a fraction of a second before snapping back into place. She stumbled backward, clutching the edge of the dresser. Her breath came out in shallow gasps. No, 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 no. The reflection leaned closer to the glass, its movements jerking, stuttering. Its eyes locked with hers, and for the first time, it didn't look like a copy at all. It looked like something learning. Like it was studying her. She tore the sheet back over the mirror and bolted from the room, refusing to look back. But even as she pressed her back against the locked bedroom door, she could swear she heard something faintly tapping on the other side of the glass. Sleep had become impossible. Every time she closed her eyes, she felt it. Her own face watching her from somewhere close, too close. By the third night of no rest, she left the mirror covered and tried to doze off on the couch, the flicker of the street lamp outside offering the only comfort. That's when she heard it. A voice. Her voice. At first, it was faint, like someone talking through a wall. The words were muffled, meaningless whispers curling around the edges of her mind. She sat up, straining to listen, heart pounding. Then the sound sharpened, low and intimate. "Don't fight me." She froze. The voice was coming from the far corner of the living room, an empty shadow pooling where the lamplight didn't reach. "Who's there?" she whispered, her throat dry. The darkness didn't answer with silence. Instead, the whisper came again, layered and wet, like her own voice dragged through broken glass. "You're tired, let me take care of things." Her hands shook violently as she clutched the blanket tighter around her. She forced herself to look into the corner. And there it was, just visible, crouched low in the shadows. Her own shape, her own eyes. But the grin stretched far too wide, teeth glinting faintly in the half-light. She couldn't breathe, couldn't scream. The whisper grew louder, filling the room now, filling her head. "Why fight? I can be you better than you." She bolted upright and turned on every light in the apartment, chasing away the shadows. But the voice lingered, echoing inside her skull. And worst of all, she wasn't sure if the thing had spoken aloud, or if it had spoken through her own mouth. She tried to pretend it wasn't real, tried to bury herself in work, in phone calls with friends, in anything that would keep her from being alone in the apartment. But the more she resisted, the more it pushed back. The first sign came one morning in the kitchen. She had set a glass of water on the counter while scrolling her phone. Out of the corner of her eye, she saw it, just a tiny shift. The glass slid an inch forward, as if nudged by an invisible hand. Her breath hitched. Slowly, she reached out and touched it, the rim cool against her fingers. She told herself it was condensation, gravity, anything. But before she could move it back, the glass toppled on its side, spilling water straight toward her. She staggered back, heart thudding. That night, unable to sleep, she opened her phone. The screen flickered to life with a notification. Video saved. 2:13 a.m. She didn't remember recording anything. Hands shaking, she pressed play. The footage was of her bedroom. She was lying there in bed, breathing slow, asleep. The camera must have been propped on the dresser across the room, though she had never set it up. For several seconds, the video was still, silent. And then something moved. A second figure stood by the bed. Her figure. Same hair, same nightshirt. It leaned over the sleeping version of herself, head twitching at a strange angle, mouth opening far too wide as if to taste the air above her face. Her stomach lurched. The recording ended abruptly, as if cut short. Her hands trembled so hard she dropped the phone to the floor. She didn't bother picking it up. The realization slammed into her chest like ice. It wasn't trapped in reflections anymore. It was here. At first, it was small things. Her best friend Maya called one morning and asked why she'd hung up on her the night before. "I didn't," she insisted. "We didn't even talk yesterday." But Maya swore they'd spoken, about things only the two of them knew. Then her boss at work pulled her aside. "Rough day yesterday, huh? I could tell you weren't yourself." She blinked. She hadn't been at work the day before. She'd been locked in her apartment, terrified to move. Everywhere she turned, people mentioned conversations she hadn't had, meetings she'd missed, moments she didn't remember. It was as though someone else was living her life, wearing her face. And then came the most chilling moment of all. She went to visit her mother across town. Relief swelled in her chest when the door opened, but it didn't last. Her mother's smile faltered almost instantly, her eyes wary. "You were just here," her mother said softly, confusion edging her voice. "Not an hour ago." Her knees nearly buckled. "No, Mom. I just got here. I haven't seen you in weeks." Her mother's expression tightened, as though she were trying to solve a puzzle she didn't want the answer to. "Sweetheart, what's happening to you?" Her mouth opened, but no words came. Because she didn't know. She only knew one thing for certain. The other version of herself wasn't just watching anymore. It was living her life. She barely slept, barely ate. Every time she stepped outside, she felt eyes on her. Every time someone spoke to her, she wondered if they were comparing her to it. The breaking point came one night when she forced herself to face the mirror again. The sheet came down in trembling hands, and there she was, herself. Pale, exhausted, but human. For a moment, relief bloomed in her chest, until the reflection smiled. She hadn't moved her lips. She hadn't smiled at all. The version in the mirror leaned forward, tilting its head, and for the first time it didn't bother pretending to mimic her. Its teeth were too sharp now, its pupils too wide, black bleeding into the whites of its eyes. Her stomach twisted as she stumbled backward, and then it waved. A slow, deliberate wave. Her skin went cold. No. She turned to run, but the air grew heavy, thick, like water pressing in on her chest. Her legs buckled, and she fell to the floor, gasping. She looked up, and her reflection wasn't in the mirror anymore. It was standing above her. Her own face stared down at her, lips peeling back in that jagged grin. It whispered in her own voice, calm, certain. "You've been fading for a while now. I think it's my turn." Her vision blurred. She clawed at the floor, desperate, but her body grew heavier, weaker, as though the strength was draining out of her into the figure towering over her. The last thing she saw before the darkness swallowed her was the reflection. No, the replacement, kneeling down, placing a hand on her chest. And when her eyes fluttered open again, she was no longer in her own skin. She was trapped, somewhere cold, empty, watching herself walk away in her body.